Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Tiff and Tony Show. Today we have a magical meetup with two professional soccer players. I want you to see it for yourself. My words can't really describe the beauty of it and who we get to meet and bring together. So please join us and let's go check it out. Well, hello. We are here with Joy, who is one of our team members here at Pure Game. We have Tony, as always, and we have a really great and sweet guest with us today. Her name is Renae. I don't want to butcher your last name, Renae, so I'll let you say that.
Okay, my name is Renae Cuéllar. You can say Cuéllar, it's Cuéllar, but yes, it's been butchered plenty of times.
So the cool thing about this kind of magical meetup is what I'm calling it, is that Renae is a professional soccer player for the Mexico team. Is that correct? Cool.
Yes.
And Joy was a professional soccer player, World Cup twice, I believe. And
It's like more or less, only twice.
You won two, been in four.
One, two,
wow.
been in four.
Okay.
And shall I tell you what I love about this, guys, is right over Joy's right shoulder is a picture of the 99 World Cup Rose Bowl. That's right there. That's phenomenal.
Wow.
How many people were in that stadium, Joy?
90,000 people in that stadium. That was the final.
I was
90,000
one of
people.
90,000 people, by the way.
Yes.
I was like, I got heat stroke while wearing my Gold Girl Mia Hamm shirt, and I still went back to make sure I watched the final, and I was 9 years old, and it was, I mean, obviously an incredible and impressionable moment for me as a player and as a little girl, you know, just hoping to be like them one day.
So yes, that's part of this magic, is that Renae, you got to see Joy play when you were a kid.
Yes.
In person at the stadium when she won the World Cup. And yeah, will you share a little bit more about how that impacted you?
Yes, of course. I think, you know, obviously at that time with soccer, it was not the way it is now, you know, with it obviously being women's soccer being on such a higher platform. So I think for me, I grew up watching my aunt play college soccer, and she played for Mexico as well. I actually watched my aunt play with Mexico against Joy Fawcett with USA. But when it came to the 99 World Cup final, and obviously it was in Pasadena, you know, I'm from La Puente, from Southern California. I mean, it was a huge moment for me. I just remember seeing how many people were there, how many of us girls were screaming their names. You know, she was always to me, you know, what I admired about her was she was always a very fit, very athletic, you know, competitive player. And even though I was at that point, I was a defender. So I was, you know, looking at her, and my dad would always put emphasis on the fact that she was always in such great shape, you know, and she was playing and she was so physical. And I think for me, you know, being able to experience that moment, obviously it had a huge impression on my heart. You know, you're passionate about the game and you love it. And I think it just made me obviously have more hopes that one day I could be there as well. I think, you know, they were inspirational for all of us girls. You know, now it's the other U.S. generation, you know, and it's my generation. But I think for us, you know, having them to look up to was huge. I also attended the Julie Foudy soccer camp after, you know, that was huge for us. And it was in Chula Vista, right? I think it was in Chula Vista that I went to because I wanted to meet the 99ers and I wanted to know how they trained and to, you know, hopefully be like them one day. So I think it's a huge inspiration for us. I mean, even though I play for Mexico, obviously I played for the USA in youth. And of course, you know, I dreamed of being like her and, you know, doing what she did one day.
That's awesome. So Joy, what do you want to share? Do you have any questions for each other? Let's just like dive in.
No, it's neat to hear. It's inspiring because when you're in it, you don't realize the impact that you're having. Not till later when you're out and about and you run into people and just seeing the sport grow over time. You're right. It was very different back then. And to see the change over time while I was in it and after, and to be able to pass the legacy on to people and players like yourselves that keep it going and continue to inspire girls. And it hasn't dwindled at all. They love coming out to watch you guys, which is awesome.
I had a question for you, obviously. For you as a mother, I know you played while you had your daughters, and I know, at least for me, sometimes, not the feeling within myself, but obviously, with the outside voices. And I could imagine then how uncommon it was for a mom to be playing and, having children, for how was that for you, at that time, and how much did it, impact your career, or, and, good or bad, in a sense of the choices you had to make as a professional and for your family?
I really probably didn't put a lot of thought into it. I think I loved kids and I really wanted to be a mom. And I wanted to be a younger mom so I could keep up with my kids. So that kind of was why I started early. Didn't realize, I don't know the impact on playing. I mean, probably was tired more than I should have been.
Yeah.
Up all night with kids, but it kept me in the game longer. The fact that U.S. Soccer did support me and allowed me to bring the kids was huge for me, because if I couldn't have brought them, I wouldn't have played. I didn't want to leave them behind, have them, and then just leave them behind. So that was huge. It kept me in the game as long as it did. I had all three kids playing, so I was very thankful for that. And I don't know, it was a fun distraction off the field. Take your mind off all the mistakes you made on the field that day. I think it helped the team too, because they had something else to do while we were on the road. Kept them entertained, and helped me out too. So it was a lot of work, and it was hard. And no one had done it before, but it was something that I really wanted to do. And I set my mind on doing it and figured it out along the way to make it work.
It's awesome. Yes, of course. I have one, and I always think, I don't know how you did it with three, because my one is, I'm like, it's pretty wild. But yeah, of course, I think it's very nice to see that even back then, it was possible, and women were capable of doing it. And I think, once I had my son, I started to do more research of what players came back, what players had kids while they were playing, because obviously, it was difficult, but like you said, it's the best feeling when you're off the field, and it's the best feeling of being able to go home to them, when you're done playing, and whether it goes your way or not, you have your biggest fans right there cheering you on.
So Joy, who supported you along your journey, if it's one person or more than one person, and kind of tied to that, who or what inspired you to go after your dream and keep pursuing this thing that you love and passionate about and are really good at?
There's a lot of people along the way that inspired me in different ways, and had impacts in different ways. Biggest would be my family. They were always supportive. I mean, I come from 9 kids. The fact that my mom dragged us all over the place was inspiring alone, just to deal with all that and all those games in a weekend. They were always there for me, never pressured, just listen through the whole thing. And then when the kids came, they were there supporting that as well, and would help me watch them and go on the road and be the nanny. High school coach had an impact on that fitness. You talk about fitness, that was something you could control, and you had control over, was how fit you were. That was something I could do and I could control. I couldn't control the game or my teammates necessarily, but that's something I could do, was be the best at that. And I learned that in high school. She was a terrible soccer coach, but she knew how to inspire us to push past our boundaries. So there's just different people along the way. My husband, the fact that he traveled and quit his job, moved around, and supported me in that way. He was always there, and wanted, put a lot of his stuff on hold for me, and the kids, so that he could be a part of that. And then my teammates, always my teammates. Gosh, I mean, they could have all said no to the kids. Hey, we don't want that. We don't want to help you, but they are always there, grabbing luggage, car seats, all the junk that had to go with you.
Joy, if you could travel back in time to that stadium and see Renae in the crowd and had a chance to tell her something, what would you tell her?
Is to have fun and love the game, because that keeps you in it. If you love it, you'll do you'll put in the hard work, and you'll continue to practice and get better. It's when you don't love it anymore that you don't want to do it. So I think for kids like that age is to find that love, and it is about relationships. I love that about it. You know, in high school and when I was young, I was not on the best team. Um, the relationships were more important to me than winning, really. So that's what I would tell that 9-year-old would be, to have fun and enjoy it.
Renae, if you could travel back in time and be in that crowd right there, and Joy was to come up to you, what questions would you have for her in that stadium in that moment?
My first one would be, can I have your autograph? Because obviously at those moments you were carrying around your little autograph books, you know, for soccer players, for Disneyland. I know that would have been my first question with my permanent marker, my Sharpie. My second question would have been, you know, what does it take to be like you? I think obviously, you know, I put a lot on that, because I remember, you know, sitting with my dad. You know, my dad was telling me, and my grandma, you know, that could be you one day, that could be you. And I think I would ask her, you know, what does it take to be in your shoes one day, you know, to have that opportunity to play in a World Cup? And my other question would be, can I have your jersey? Because I probably would have been the little girl that was asking for the World Cup players jersey after they won a World Cup, not knowing that, of course, they're not going to give it to you. But yes, I was that little kid in the stands.
So, Joy, what would you like to know of Renae and how she got to where she got? What question would you ask an Af? You're sitting opposite her. What would you like to know?
Like, what did it take to you be the best player that you wanted to be?
I would say a lot of hard work. I think, like you know, you had said, I think my family, since I was younger, has always instilled in me that the only two things you control, you know, were your fitness and, you know, the way you perform. So I think for me, it's, you know, of course it was always a sacrifice. You know, I'm an only child, but I think, you know, from the very humbled beginnings I come from, you know, I think seeing my parents who had me as teenagers, you know, giving me every single thing they could and working, you know, day and night to give me a better opportunity at life, I think that really motivated me within to work as hard as I could to be able to attend a university and be the first one in my family to, you know, get a degree and attend a Division I university. And I think, you know, like my family is very important to me, but I think it was just hard work. You know, I always saw my family working hard in other aspects in life, you know, my aunt in sports, but my parents, you know, and my mom's office job, and my dad, you know, in his street maintenance job, and my grandparents and their unions, you know, everything I seen growing up, I think it was just instilling that, you know, the only thing you can do is work hard, and that's what you can control. You know, you couldn't control whether a coach liked you or wanted to play you, you know, whether you scored, you know, 10 goals or 3 goals. But I think for me, it was just a lot of hard work, and I loved it. You know, I think when I knew when I played on the field and I was there, I stood out. You know, I knew I felt special when I played, and I knew it was what I loved to do every day, day in and day out. And I think it was just hard work. You know, like you said, every time we speak to girls or, you know, kids, or they ask you, what would you say to a 9-year-old? You know, it's just, you love it and have fun, but, you know, work hard, you know, because at the end of the day, that's what you can control, is how hard you work and how much you give back to the game.
Yep. And I think that's so important to talk about, is that, and Tony and I have talked about this on previous Tiff and Tony shows, is focusing on what you can control. Because like you've both said, you can't control how other people see you or how they react or what they're going to do in their own life. You can maybe have some influence in that potentially. Really though, you can only control how you act and react. And I think being able to identify what's going on inside, because some of those things just happen involuntarily, the feelings we feel and everything we feel is okay. It's how we decide to act and react out of kind of what's going on in our internal narrative. And so, yeah, it sounds like for both of you, working really hard and doing what you can do to be the best version of yourself that you could be in pursuing professional soccer is key. And that's a really good message to just talk about.
Well, and also not being afraid to try new things. If I were,
Yep.
which I was chicken, but if I didn't get up that gumption to go to those first tryouts, I never would have gotten where I was today in soccer. If I didn't have, I mean, for me, overcoming that fear is huge for kids. Don't be afraid of what might happen. You know, just go for it and try, because you don't know what will happen, and good things can come. And
we have on this show 2 trailblazers, and I think we've had this message: control what you can control, right? Focus on what you can control and put your effort into that. But don't be afraid to step out there and try stuff. Don't be afraid to try new stuff. Don't be afraid to go out there and do something that you've never done before, or have no kind of role model in doing before. We spoke to Travis, and he became a professional soccer player, and he had no one in front of him showing him the way. And we have 2 ladies here doing the same thing. Joy, back in a day, no one had played soccer in her family and had children. She was the very first soccer mum out there, the original, which is awesome. And now we've got Renae, who's doing exactly the same thing. No one in her family had stepped out there to do this thing. So don't be afraid to step out there and try new things. You never know what's going to happen to you. And be a trailblazer. I love that idea. I'm sitting here talking to 2 trailblazers. Renae, one last question.
Yes.
Right, you're now playing in the Rose Bowl Stadium, and there's a 9-year-old coming up to you wanting your signature. What advice would you tell her?
I always say, I'll quote Joy, but obviously to have fun while you're playing, to enjoy it, and to just keep working hard. And I think another thing, especially in my Mexican culture, you know, and in my culture, a lot of what I see is I tell a lot of the little girls to appreciate what their parents are doing for them. You know, I think a lot of it goes into, I see a lot of parents who come from humble beginnings, or even if they have, you know, a lot of things, they've worked hard to get there. And I always put emphasis on being grateful that they have their family support, and to appreciate that their parents are trying to give them all the opportunities they can to have a better future and to have a better chance, you know, at doing what they want to do and having their dreams come true.
Thank you so much for joining this week's episode of the Tiff and Tony Show. I hope you had as much fun as we had. If you enjoyed this video, please click the button below to like it, and you can also share it on social media with your friends. That's one of the best ways that you can support us. And if you like what we do here at Pure Game and want to continue seeing these videos that we're putting out, please go ahead and subscribe using the button below. And with that, we'll see you right back here next